It was just another typical day at the store until a shocking encounter turned everything upside down. A white woman walked up to a young black girl, accusing her of something she didn't do, demanding that she leave immediately. The tension in the air was thick, and no one knew what to make of the situation. Was it just a misunderstanding? Or was there something deeper at play here? The girl, clearly taken aback, was left speechless, unsure of how to respond to the sudden confrontation. The store around them fell quiet, with onlookers unsure whether to intervene or just watch. It seemed like no one was coming to her defense, until the door suddenly swung open, and in walked someone who would change everything. Enter her father, but not just any father. He was the CEO of a major company, someone with influence and power. And as soon as he stepped into the store, the atmosphere shifted. The white woman's face went pale as the truth began to unfold. What happens next will leave you speechless. Stay tuned as the story takes a turn no one could have predicted. The girl, still standing frozen by the shelves, could hardly believe what was happening. Her heart raced as the woman's accusations echoed in her ears. She had been nothing but polite, just casually browsing through the aisles, when out of nowhere, this stranger had approached her. The woman, with an air of authority, claimed that the girl had been acting suspiciously and demanded she leave. She couldn't fathom why this was happening. There was no explanation, just cold judgment. As the confrontation escalated, the store manager stood to the side, clearly unsure of what to do. No one had spoken up, leaving the girl alone in the center of this unjust moment. Then, as if fate had timed it perfectly, the door swung open with a soft chime, and the girl's father walked in. Tall, confident, and dressed in a sharp suit, he immediately surveyed the scene. His eyes narrowed when he saw the woman still pointing at his daughter, who looked on the verge of tears. The tension was palpable. The store seemed to hold its breath as he took a step forward, his presence commanding attention. The woman, noticing him now, hesitated. The air felt heavy with anticipation, and the eyes of everyone in the store shifted nervously between them. No one knew what would happen next, but it was clear this was about to get far more complicated. The father's steps were slow but deliberate as he approached his daughter. His sharp gaze didn't leave the woman, who now looked uneasy, shifting on her feet. The girl's heart pounded in her chest, but her dad's calm demeanor was oddly reassuring. She had never seen him in this kind of situation, but she knew he wouldn't back down. He never did. The woman cleared her throat, suddenly flustered. She's been loitering, acting suspicious, she stammered, her voice now shaking. I don't feel comfortable with her here. The father, without even looking at his daughter, turned his full attention to the woman. What exactly do you mean by suspicious? He asked, his voice steady but with an edge to it. My daughter is just shopping. She's done nothing wrong. The manager finally took a step forward, his face pale, clearly not wanting to escalate the situation any further. Ma'am, I think there's been some misunderstanding here, he said, glancing between the father and the woman, looking for guidance on how to handle the situation. But the woman wasn't having it. Her eyes flickered to the girl, then back to the father. I don't care who you are, she doesn't belong here. That one comment hit harder than anything the girl had expected. It was the kind of comment that left no room for ambiguity. The father's expression hardened, and his jaw clenched. The air around them seemed to freeze as everyone waited, anticipating what he would do next. The store felt suffocating, every pair of eyes locked on the scene unfolding before them. The woman's words hung in the air, as if they had cut through the tension like a knife. The father stood unmoving, his gaze locked onto her, but something in his eyes had changed. It was no longer just about defending his daughter. It was about confronting something deeper, something more sinister. The woman was shaking now, but not from fear. Her confidence, which had been unwavering moments ago, was beginning to crack. She took a step back, glancing at the manager, her voice becoming sharper. I don't care who he is. This is my right. I won't have her. She stopped herself, realizing that her words were only digging her deeper into a hole she couldn't escape. The father's voice cut through the growing tension, low and controlled. "You don't get to tell my daughter where she belongs, or where she can shop." The words were simple, but they carried a weight, as though he wasn't just standing up for her, but for anyone who had ever been unfairly judged. The girl's heart raced as she saw the woman's face change. The pride she'd once had seemed to slip away, replaced by something that resembled fear. Was it guilt? The store had gone silent, every person frozen in place, waiting for the next move. Suddenly, the father turned his back to the woman and spoke to the manager, who had been watching nervously from the sidelines. "I want you to check the security footage," he said firmly, his voice unwavering. "Now." The manager hesitated, then nodded, his face pale. He hurried toward the back of the store, likely realizing that the evidence would tell a very different story from the one the woman had been spinning. The woman's eyes followed him, panic now creeping into her features. She began to fidget, her hands trembling as she glanced around the store, as if looking for a way out. But it was too late. The father's words were like a countdown. The truth was about to be revealed, and no one knew what the fallout would be. Would the woman face consequences for her actions, or would this confrontation lead to an even bigger showdown? Everyone was on edge, anticipating the moment when everything would come to light. As the manager rushed to the back to check the footage, the store buzzed with whispers. The tension was unbearable. The father stood tall, unwavering, but the girl could feel the knot in her stomach tighten with each passing second. What was going to happen? Would the footage clear everything up, or would the woman's accusations still hold weight? But just as the store manager was about to reach the security room, the front door swung open again. This time, it wasn't just any ordinary customer walking in. It was another man, dressed in a crisp suit, with an air of authority that rivaled the father's. He walked straight to the counter without even glancing at the scene unfolding behind him. The woman's eyes lit up as she recognized him. "You," she exclaimed, a faint smile creeping onto her face. The father's expression darkened, his eyes narrowing as he looked at the man with growing confusion. The new man stood beside her now, his hand on her shoulder in a gesture that seemed far too familiar. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice smooth, almost too smooth. The father stepped forward, his eyes never leaving the woman's new companion. "Who are you?" he demanded. The man smiled faintly, his gaze shifting between the father and the girl. "I'm her lawyer," he said, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "And I've been informed that my client here is being harassed." The girl's jaw dropped. A lawyer? Had this been planned all along? Was this more than just a random confrontation? Suddenly, everything felt like it was spiraling out of control. The stakes had just been raised, and with a lawyer now involved, the situation had become far more complicated. The manager, still in the back, had no idea what was happening, and neither did anyone else in the store. The father's eyes flicked back to his daughter, his jaw clenched, but now he was facing an entirely new battle. How could he win this one when the woman had a lawyer in her corner? Would the truth even matter now? The pieces of this puzzle were falling into place, but the final picture was still shrouded in mystery. The tension in the store reached a breaking point as the man, now revealed to be the woman's lawyer, took a step closer to the father. The girl could feel her heart pounding in her chest, the weight of the situation crashing down on her. This wasn't just about a misunderstanding anymore. There were layers to this, layers that she hadn't even begun to understand. The father didn't flinch. "A lawyer? For what? Defamation?" he asked, his voice cold, though there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. The lawyer smirked, crossing his arms. "My client has every right to defend herself. She's been unjustly accused, and we'll make sure that's clear to anyone who's listening." But before the father could respond, the store manager returned, looking pale and flustered. He hurriedly handed the father his phone, showing the security footage. The video revealed the woman's confrontation with the girl, exactly as it had happened. But then, the footage showed something even more shocking. The woman, just moments before confronting the girl, had been speaking with a man in the corner of the store, someone wearing the same suit as the lawyer now standing before them. The woman's face turned ghostly pale as the video played. The lawyer's smug smile faltered. "What is this?" the father demanded. The woman's eyes darted from the screen to the lawyer, then back to the father. Her hands trembled. It's not what you think," she stammered, clearly caught off guard. The lawyer's face turned red as the man in the footage was revealed to be his client, a well-known businessman. The very same businessman who had once tried to buy out the company the father owned. The woman, it seemed, had been trying to set the girl up all along, not just for a petty confrontation, but to create a scene that would discredit the father's company, making it easier for her client to seize control. The crowd in the store was speechless, watching as everything fell into place. The woman, realizing she was cornered, opened her mouth to protest, but the father's voice cut her off. "This is over," he said, his tone final. "You've made a huge mistake." As the lawyer turned to leave, defeated, the father turned to his daughter, pulling her into a tight embrace. But just as they began to breathe a sigh of relief, a final twist hit like a thunderclap. The store manager, still holding his phone, glanced at the footage one last time, his eyes widening. "There's more," he whispered, holding up the phone for everyone to see. The video had captured the businessman, not just talking to the woman, but handing her an envelope right before the confrontation started. It was clear now. The whole incident had been planned, staged from the very beginning. The father's expression hardened as the full weight of the conspiracy hit him. What had seemed like a simple dispute was far from over. Now, it wasn't just about standing up for his daughter. It was about taking down an entire network of corruption.